In this board game vlog, we're going to get my vote for the best Horde board game. And as always, turning it over to my fellow board gaming enthusiasts for your recommendations. Now, I define a Horde-based board game kind of like a tower defense game where you've got a team. In this case, it's not a base, it's the player characters. And you're going about a certain mission. But as that's happening, the game is ramping up in terms of power, complexity, and miniatures that you have to navigate. It's spawning more and more stuff. These type of games have an interesting dynamic to them in that in the beginning, you have the ability to navigate, to move, to level up, but you have to make some interesting choices because spending resources to complete the mission, right? Obtain an object, get to this objective, escort off, or exploring for treasure, loot, for weapons, for gear, you can't do that forever, right? At a certain point, the game starts spawning, let's say zombies or space aliens. I'm looking at two of my favorite titles that I'm going to recommend. In the beginning, it's like, okay, look, we can navigate this, we can do this. There's like 10 or 12 on the table, it's a big map and no worries. But then every turn it pumps out more and more and more and more. So there's this constant pressure to keep moving, grab what you can. It's an interesting type of game, interesting type of feeling. I prefer Horde-based games to be AI-driven through cards or dice or some sort of matrix as opposed to a one versus all players. We see this with some Overlord systems. We've got 5 or 6 characters. Think of Hero Quest. The players are playing the characters. The one controlling the monsters is the Overlord, the Necromancer, the Overseer, whatever that's going to be. And the one against many format with these Horde-based games, the AI can do a pretty good job of that. Yes, having direct ownership by a player is always going to be better, but I like to play these type of games as a co-op because this way all of us, all 5, 6, 8 of us, whatever that's going to be, we can share that experience together. We can have that experience together, and the board game can drive itself. And the AI, of course, is based on the monsters that are spawned, the bosses. So my 2 recommendations. You've got Zombicide Modern. Zombies spawn. You've got a bunch of different objectives. Tech level is now. You've got Zombicide Black Plague, which is kind of a D&D type feeling to it, right? You've got wizards, you've got warriors, you're utilizing that. Then you've got Zombicide Invader. And while I play both of them, I've got Black Plague and I've got Invader. The only reason I don't have Modern is because a good friend of mine has all of the Modern stuff, and it's all beautifully, amazingly painted. So anytime we're going to play it, I want to really play with his set and enjoy all those options and X packs and character packs and 3D furniture. It's really an experience in itself. I will never be able to top that. So focusing on Black Plague and focusing on Invader. I tend to go with Invader simply because the mechanics are for the most part the same. There's a couple of little differences between each game as they've evolved. But while I am a big enthusiast of fantasy and looking at dungeon crawlers and like AD&D, D&D type stuff, there's not many board games out there that are set for sci-fi, where you're dealing from that perspective. So I find the duality of players can easily sit down and understand like, yeah, there's an alien horde coming after us and we've got to navigate that, while at the same time playing and enjoying the fact that for the most part, we're not battling space aliens. Usually it's zombies and undead and this type of stuff based on the Horde mechanic. So I think it has that duality. But my vote in the games that I regularly play, both Black Plague and both Zombicide Invader, they're in my pile number 1. Pile number 1 are board games in the Fritz Cave that they sit eternally by the side of the table in these kind of big plastic tins and tubs that I transport to the gaming club or to play. I'm constantly playing them with my friends, open play, arranged play. So they never go on the gaming shelf because they're just going to come back down and get packed up. It's easier to do that. Just FYI, Tier 2 games are games that I love to play. They're absolutely fantastic. I would play them more. I want to play them more, but the stars need to really align to do this. Descent First Edition, Twilight Imperium, Kingdom Death Monster. These are games that you schedule, that you plan, that you have to set up. They're not really pick-up games or bring to play. And then Tier 3 games are games that I really enjoy playing. I don't play as often because I'm playing a different experience. An example would be, I'm a big Warhammer 40,000 enthusiast, Eldar, Grey Knights, Space Marines, and I also love playing Space Hulk, the board game. But for the most part, just like I loved playing Dark Heresy, the role-playing game, for the most part, we're doing the 40K tabletop. That occupies most of our time, not as much playing Space Hulk. So these titles are great, and I love them, but we tend to do more of the wargaming side of it. So I've got Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. Black Plague, Invader, they're my Tier 1. Now, turning it over to my fellow board gaming enthusiasts, this is a dangerous place for yours truly to be. Being a completionist with poor impulse control and always looking for that next title. Very dangerous. But to finish this out and get it up to the archives as a resource, tower defense, spawning games, one versus many, horde type board games. What do you recommend? What's on your top playlist for titles?